So I should start talking now about random things, or
Yeah, pretty much. We always give the first way to speak right now, because
so I
obviously
should start talking now
we
about
are
random things,
live with episode 9 of Airsoft Nation. Right now, can't believe we're at episode 9 already. It's 9 weeks in a row, but I've had no plans on a Monday night.
Game of Thrones starts soon, bro. We're gonna have to change the day.
Yeah, that's it. It's gonna definitely have to switch to a different day of the week. Welcome everybody to episode 9 of Airsoft Nation Live. With me today, as usual, is my lovely co-host Carlo. Say hi, Carlo.
Hey, everyone.
And the special guest tonight, he goes by several names on here, but Templar Mike or Templar Airsoft. So thank you very much for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Should be a fun-filled one, although not according to one of my, not one of the Airsoft Nation fans who I promoted to. We're talking about Milsims and Milsims, and he went, "Milsims boring," and it's like,
I was like, all right, don't come to the show then. It's an easy way to vote. It's like buying a movie ticket. If you don't see a movie, don't buy a ticket for it.
Well, I did kind of say.
Input.
Yeah, I did say, we've had snipers, we've had CQB players, we've had bloggers, we've had vloggers, we've had one Milsim. It's like, we are going through the rounds here. We've had a retailer. Yes, but hopefully everyone else will enjoy the rest of the show, part of this person. So thank you very much for joining us. Why don't you tell everyone who you are, and we'll get started with the Milsim side.
I'm me.
All right, cool.
Done.
Well, that's the end of the show. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. See you later.
Let's start with your airsoft experience, and in the meantime, everyone who's saying hi to you, Carlo can read out in a second.
Yeah, I can't get. I'm not good with technology, so I can't get everything up at the same time.
No, you're good, Carlo. That's Carlo's here.
I can literally just see your two faces, and that's it.
I think Graham a bill every week for it, like to do this job particularly, and he just looks at it and goes, "Oh, I just where to put that," and it ends up in the bin.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
So,
So, Mike, when did you start airsoft?
2012, I think it was. It's a buddy of mine. He was really keen to go. At first, I didn't want to go at all. I'd heard about airsoft as a soldier, and genuinely embarrassingly now, had the attitude that airsofters were just a bunch of wolves, basically. So I really didn't want to go. My buddy that wanted to do it, he's not ex-mil at all, and we'd done we'd been paintballing and things, and he knew someone that had played airsoft, so they'd sort of talked him into it. But yeah, eventually we went along. I think it was about September time, 2012. I think it was. It was about 4 weeks before I handed all my kit back into the army, and then 6 months later I had to rebuy because I got into airsoft by that point and needed to buy back all the kit that I'd given away. But yeah, that was how I got into it. I played the first game, realised that it's actually just a bunch of lads having a bit of fun, and as I was saying to you guys before we went live, there was a big group of us that played that day, and we had two of us were ex-mil, and we were sort of talking. We didn't know Milsim was a real thing then, so we were talking about how it would be good to have an airsoft game with realistic missions and a live enemy playing up for like you would on a military exercise. And it was back then that for me the idea sort of spawned for Milsim, obviously not knowing that it was an actual thing that people could pay to go and do.
Out of interest, how long were you serving?
It was 12 years all in total. Last few years were I was on sort of extended leave. I was started off with the reserves at first, and then I deployed to Iraq a couple of times, and then transferred over to another regiment to go out to Afghan, and then after that I came back, transferred back to the reserves, and I had it was a couple of years extended leave basically, where I was sort of deciding whether or not I could continue to serve as a reservist, or if I just had to hand my kit in, just due to time constraints with work and things like that.
Yeah. It's interesting that you'd say that you consider airsoft as waltz, because that's always the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
How there's always been that bit that how serving members would consider airsofters, but then there's obviously, especially once they finish serving, they tend to come back into airsoft to play and realise
there is one person that did try that a few years ago, and he's very famous for it. I won't mention his name. He knows who he is. Everybody that is everyone that knows me knows who he is, because I don't shut up about him, especially because he still owes me a $5, and he ate my freaking Chinese. Yeah, no, I can totally understand where Mike's coming from. Yeah, we are a bunch of walks, really. We all wear the issue kit.
Yeah.
Even though we shouldn't.
But we don't pretend
make ourselves targets.
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's it. We don't pretend to be in the army, though. Or, I mean, anyone who's old enough. I mean, obviously you get some of the younger kids, you know, the 10 to 12, 13s that play, you know, the imagination goes wild. But I mean, most of us will wear the kit because it's part of the role playing of the day, isn't it? I'd like to say I don't know many people that go, "Oh, I'm in the army," although we have obviously seen people over the years that use that.
The airsoft is full of actual genuine waltz. I've come across a few already, and but yeah, I think the big difference is how people portray themselves when they're how they portray themselves when they've got the kit on. You know, if you're just playing the part for that day, and then you take it off at the end of the day, and you go home, and that's the end of it. You know, that's not waltzing. You're not pretending to be something to gain anything. You're just playing a part within whatever it is that you're doing for that day. It's the same with the badges. I actually don't have any problem with anybody wearing any badges, any cap badges, or anything like that in game.
Even rank slides.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. It's not something that I think, because the way I look at it is, if you're going to pick on people wearing rank slides in a game, why just draw the line at that? Why not criticize anybody that wears the uniform or the union flag on the sleeve? Because although you get issued that kit when you sign up, you still have to work your ass off to actually have the right to wear that kit going forward. So for me, as long as the guys aren't pretending that they've actually earned that rank and they used to be in that regiment or anything like that, I don't. To me, it's no different to someone wearing a World War II uniform on a reenactment show or anything like that. It's what they do after the gameplay's finished. I mean, I don't see why someone would wear a rank slide. But yeah, I mean, I've seen guys doing it, and it's never really caused a problem with me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because it's just these few words just popped in my head there. It's like, what's the thread count? You know, you sometimes get people like that. The real stitch Nazis. I shouldn't say that. Sorry, no. The real thread counters, as we'll call them. You shouldn't say the other one because they don't like it. It's like calling the bunny cute. You know, a bunny can call another bunny cute, but if you do it, it's kind of, yeah. There are quite a few people who do admire what the armed forces do, Her Majesty's forces in particular. You know, and we can't thank our civil servants enough for it.
Yeah.
And how you guys do the jobs that nobody else wants to, really. You know, the scary things, and just like to say.
As I say, it just all comes down to attitude, really. I think for me, if a guy's got the right attitude when he's at a game site, he can wear whatever he wants. You know, if people are humble about their actual background, so you see guys that are actually ex-forces, and they'll still bullshit themselves this massive backstory about all the things that they've done, and you just think you've served, and I know of one particular guy. I'm not going to say his name, but his team's well known, and he was caught Walton on his team page quite a while ago. He had a lot of pictures of some SF guys, and I actually know him from outside of airsoft. I know him from the circuit in the UK, and he has served. He's deployed to Iraq, and he has worked as a contractor. Yet he's still made up all this crap about being SF and all this stuff. So it's not just non-military type. Unfortunately, we still get them in the military as well. Guys that just want to bloat their career up, and like you say, that a lot of the younger lads do look up to guys that have served, and it's not good when you've got guys even from within doing that sort of thing as well.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Can we start shifting away? Let's get into
From a
Mike.
happy tone.
Yeah, exactly.
Chat's a little bit dry this evening. We've not really had much, except for Paul Bennett, who's literally just said, "Well, patch design. I've come across lots of so-called ex-special forces who want the patches made." And if you're ex-special forces, why don't you just have a patch already, or why can't you get on for your regs? That does make me laugh.
Yeah.
I want to know what sort of patches these guys are asking for.
It's like, what is it? It's just like a black. It's the blacked out Union flag, isn't it? It's the black BBC version.
It's the glasses with the that's it. There we go, Mike.
Yeah, the black. The black bar glass. Yeah. Somebody was selling those a while back for like £8.
Yeah.
I was gonna buy.
Entrepreneur there. Okay, so you started into Airsoft 2012. You've been serving, you got into it. You then switched to trying out Milsims. What was your first experience like? Obviously, someone who's done this in the field before is probably a lot more prepared than the average Joe, I should say, turning up to one of these events.
Yeah, the first one I ended up on was actually by accident. It was Airborne Airsofts. It was the last game they had for their Jafar versus their series ran as terrorists versus a good guy sort of thing. Yeah. And I think they were struggling to, for some reason, there was a sort of shift where it became disrespectful to pretend to be a terrorist in an airsoft game, which is right. I've actually said that to quite a few of my serving friends, that airsofters think it's disrespectful to play terrorists in games, and they all think it's hilarious because the first thing you ever volunteer for on exercise is to play the enemy, because it's so fun. You don't have to abide by any rules. But yeah, I was supposed to play a game at Longmoor, and I got caught up with work, and I had to skip it out, and I hadn't played for a few weeks, so I just jumped on with one other guy, a guy named Matt, who's a former officer or training officer, and we just rocked up there. We didn't really realise it was a Milsim, and we just got involved there. And the teams were massively outnumbered that first game we played, and I stupidly the Jafar side, because they were having trouble recruiting all of these guys to play the terrorists. They're massively outnumbered to the point where the organisers, I think they made a statement saying they might have to switch guys over on the day because the teams were that unbalanced. And I stupidly said it creates a target-rich environment for us, so fuck it, let's just play it as it is. And I think it's the first time I've ever been to Longmoor and never actually seen a house. So we didn't get out of the woods, but spent all day basically trying to battle through some really organised lines. And it was at that point that I sort of the NATO teams at the time, there were some good teams playing there, and they were really well coordinated. And it was like taking on it was like being on exercise again, and taking on another a military unit from our point of view. Hiding in the bushes from 50 odd guys all in multicam. So that sort of peaked. I sort of realised then that there were actually these games that were based around more realistic ops. So yeah, from there I just started looking at more games. I mean, I still enjoyed skirmishing. I skirmish a lot more than I do Milsim.
Okay.
So I'm probably you could probably class me as more of a skirmisher, I suppose. But the Milsim side
I actually liked you up until that point.
Yeah,
I thought you were okay.
but
Sorry.
that's purely down to like for me to get on a weekend event with work and obviously my family. It's difficult to get away for a whole weekend. I'm not at home a whole deal as it is. So to turn around and get a weekend off and then go away to do something else, it's always a bit of a fine juggling act for me. Which is why I've done tended to do the single day sort of Milsim events I've seen, just because for me it sort of fits in. This year we'll be changing though, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously come on to that very shortly. Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because this is the whole perks of one day events. Means if you can only get there for the one dayers,
Yeah,
you can go straight in. And whereas we do, obviously, you must know, we've got guys in the community that say they're doing a Milsim, it has to be 2 days, because if I'm going away from my family, I want to know it's a whole weekend and I'm done, and I might not play again for another 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it really does work both ways in that respect. And I know, I mean, coming just off that 1 day Milsim at Airborne was the fact that a lot of my guys were like, it's great just to have the 1 day where we can kind of get into the role play of a Milsim, but it's literally just over a certain time frame, and it's kind of that middle ground, isn't it?
Yeah. That's it. I mean, for me, it's purely down to time constraints with work and family. You know, I work horrendous hours, and so getting a weekend off and then telling the wife that I'm going off to play toy soldiers in the woods. It doesn't always wash.
That's kind of killed two of my previous relationships. So I understand where you're coming from.
Mine opens the door ready to kick me out, so I don't know.
Yeah, you two live together. There's a difference.
Yeah, probably so.
She has the cats to look after her.
So, okay, so you've done primarily airborne Milsims. A couple of 24-hour ones you've said before, but most of them are 1 day on Milsims.
Yeah.
What sparked the interest then? Obviously, at the time being Mike, did Templar Airsoft get involved? Where did that kind of all come from? And why don't you explain what is Templar Airsoft, the website, and the kind of infrastructure itself to the people who are listening, if they're not aware of it?
Yeah, Templar Airsoft is it's just me. Basically, I run a couple of websites within the security industry in the field that I work in, and they're very much they're businesses, but I mean, I have a passion for what I do. I don't believe in doing things for a living, considering the amount of time you spend there and not actually enjoying what you're doing. So it's not that I don't enjoy running those websites, but they're very business. They're very sort of straight down the line type things. When I got into airsoft, I can't remember how I can't remember how the idea spawned, but one day I basically came up with the idea of stuff it. I'm going to do a website for airsoft and talk about airsoft from a former soldier's point of view. That was the initial sort of idea, and it was very much set up as just a way for me to have fun with a website and writing articles and things like that. And then I was asked to review a gun for Just Cause Airsoft.
So I'm looking at the
Simon,
MP5.
who's obviously come with my partner on Legion Airsoft, and when they initially approached me, I wasn't running a YouTube channel, but I thought then, you know what, this would be good to do a review as a video and set up a YouTube channel. So that was how that spawned basically. It was just I was asked to review a gun, and from there I bought some cheap knockoff GoPro, which was terrible. I sold it and bought a GoPro after 2 months. And then, just basically spawned from there. And it really is it's just me. I genuinely enjoy editing videos. I've done a few videos, I've done a few videos from my deployments, editing the footage from the guys that we captured out in Iraq and Afghanistan. And that's basically where the YouTube channels basically come from. And I mean, it's basically just me doing stuff that I enjoy doing, basically. I enjoy the editing. I I'm starting to enjoy the photography side of things. Trying to teach myself and improve my skills in photography and things like that. So that's basically all it is. It's just a fun project that's now grown. I mean, I had no intentions for it to. I mean, it's still very small, but when I first started it, I never even considered that it would grow to. I think we've just gone over 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, which for someone that doesn't like being in front of a camera generally is it's not bad.
Well, the thing is, you've got some really polished videos, and I mean, not that you got a lot of variation between the rifle reviews. You've got your Milsim series kind of trailers, the Q&As, the Milsim preparation guides. I mean, yeah, the first thing I asked you, I said straight away about the videos, and today I shared about the PCA Act, which is a great video you've done there. Because no, I can't.
Yeah, it's very, very, very informative, and it's not an easy sort of deal of information to go through. It can be quite confusing if you're a fucking idiot, and it's great that we have different mediums for people to approach this information, because it can be quite daunting. The government are going to try and take away our guns. They're trying to oppress us again. They're not really. I'm kidding. Okay, they're not. They're like airsoft. Okay, we're all fine. Please do not take up arms and march down at Parliament. Status of operator. It's not safe. It's not fun.
Yeah, I was getting so many questions about the PCA. That was what spurred me to do the video on there. I wasn't initially going to do a video because it's a legal thing, and there's a real danger if you put a video. In fact, I saw there was a young lad, I don't know who he is, but he put the video up and he had the wrong information on there, and he got absolutely annihilated on Facebook. And that side of things doesn't bother me. I mean, you can call me whatever you want on the internet. It's just a few little pixels on the screen. It doesn't affect me in the slightest. But what worries me is putting out the wrong information, and then somebody getting in the shit with the police, or Mike told me that this was allowed. That was a big concern. So even whilst filming it, I mean, the amount of I think the video's 10 minutes long, but I must have spent about an hour filming it because I kept. I'm not very good in front of a camera. I'm surprised though I'm doing so well. The amount of time that really take because I called something that was not, or I called a suppressor a silencer on one video. It got to the point where I just left it in.
You did not.
Yes, I did. I kept started to do a little collection of weapons. I reviewed the SL14 speed loader from Elite Force, and I kept calling it a gun. And I've got a clip of me calling it a gun for about the 50th time, and I just lost my shit in front of the camera. And I film on my own. There's no one else here, and I'm just standing there calling myself a fucking idiot for calling it a gun yet again. So the whole PCA thing, and I've been toying with the idea of doing a video on the VCRA and Yukara for a while, but again, it's one of those things where you've got to be so careful because you're talking about legal advice essentially, and I'm not a lawyer, and to get something wrong on there, it could cause major problems for someone else down the line. So yeah, the PCA thing was I was a bit nervous about putting that out, to be honest.
No.
But yeah, it seems to have done well. I think the good thing for me was seeing the UK Airsoft Players Union shared a video on their page. That was very appreciated from me. But it was good to see that they'd sort of seen it and thought it was good enough to go on their page,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a minefield even now. Obviously, we do know that it is law. It is enforced now, or will be in May essentially.
I think it's the 2nd of May.
I think
Yeah, 2nd of May. That's it. Yeah.
It's a Tuesday, right?
I know there's still a lot of grey areas about it, but I mean, it's a great point for people who aren't
It's a
aware
foundation
to start. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you start going down the dual creep terms, and there's a lot more
Yeah.
to clear up there. But the
And
good
there's still
point,
so many people that don't have any idea that this is coming into effect.
well, yeah, this
I've
is
seen comments of "Don't worry about it. This won't happen," and
turn your hop on.
Oh, wait. Well, it was a really good video that was released. I'm not going to state who it was. They know who they are. And it was really embarrassing. They said, just super glue your regulator.
Nice. Yeah, this. I mean, someone's like, "Oh,
Don't
just
ruin
turn
your
your hop
kit.
on, it'll be fine."
Yeah.
Interestingly,
we get
this
some
weekend,
questions.
yeah, just a quick one. This
Go.
weekend, someone did use a sniper rifle firing at more than 520 FPS. The site allowed it because they just got it upgraded. They'd said they'd sort it out after. Site was like, "Yeah, we know you're a player. Don't worry. Just be very safe with it." Actually, you've just fired an air gun at someone.
yeah,
The site themselves are not even aware of this, and they're not paying enough attention to it. And obviously, I won't mention the site or the player. They spoke to me afterwards and was like talking about it. And I was like, "You've just been shooting people with technically, in the legal terms, an air gun now."
Did
you snitch on them?
Did they let other players know that someone was using a gun over the limit?
No, presumably not. It was more of they chronoed. They know the players are regular. They chronoed.
Yeah.
Just done the upgrade. Can't do anything there. Spring sniper rifle. And they basically look. You just have to be. Don't do it at 30 meters. Give yourself a bit more. You've got that extra potential there. But the whole thing here is now, even if you trust a player just to do that little bit more, you have actually just broken the bounds from what is an airsoft gun to
as I've said,
gun.
They're allowing someone to basically commit assault with an offensive weapon.
Yeah, which was something I mentioned after. And he's like, "Yeah, I've got to take it to the gun tech this week to get it trimmed down." But it was like, "Yeah, but I'm more concerned about how the sites are doing this now." You can understand some players can be naive about it, but the sites themselves, when they turn up that first time, say, "No, sorry, that's too strong. That can't be used."
Yeah.
But sorry, Carlo, you had some questions from the audience.
Yeah, no, just straight off the bat, something from me. Easter Sunday, yesterday, there was a private event at the jail, which I know I said to everyone that I wasn't going to do anything on Sunday. I would spend time with my family, but, well, we changed everything for today anyway. So yesterday I went to the jail, had a wonderful time there. Everything organised by Finchy Finch, as everybody knows him on Facebook. Great game day, great great sportsmanship, and ladies that were there, so sportswomanship as well, sports playing, whatever. And really, it was just fun. It was the old school airsoft where there was no elitist bullshit, there was no politics. It was just, let's just play.
Yep.
No marshals. Well, player marshals, no first aid and health and safety reasons, as well as insurance. But there wasn't really any sort of need for the high vises out to start hit checking on anybody. It was a fantastic day.
I do find you're right with any sort of kind of almost like private hire days. When I did the UK APU's AGM, there was, I think, only about 16 of us, 20 of us. And I mean, most of us there have been playing 5 years or more. There was no egos on the field. It was just play, enjoy, take the shots. Hurt a lot by the end of it. But yeah, some of those days are really cool.
Yeah.
Carlo, do you have questions? Because I can see some stuff coming in. Is Carlo there? Because he looks like he's not moving. Okay, I will jump on with a few questions I can see at the moment. So Bill Cooper's asking, have you found much site favorism to players? There we go. Carl will be back in a second. I have seen a lot of it in the sites I've been to. From, regulars to the kind of clicky side. I don't think that's a bad thing because you're kind of almost rewarding or being, it's one of those things that comes naturally. If you see the same player over and over again, you're obviously going to kind of be a bit more wary to hear. What about you, Mike?
What was the question? Was it, have I seen favoritism from sites?
Yeah, so the question was, have you found much site favoritism to players, especially with things like FPS and stuff like that?
I haven't come across it with FPS, to be honest. Having said that, I don't really tend to hang around the chrono. I just go and chrono and then go back to my kit. But yeah, I mean, I think every site's going to have its regular players. Those regular players are going to get along with the marshals and things a little bit more. It's inevitably going to create a little bit of bias, or shall we say, they're going to be maybe willing to give those players the benefit of the doubt a little bit more. But I've never, I've not seen it to a point where it's ever caused a problem. I mean, I've been reprimanded by a guy I know, a good friend. We play some private games together, like Carlo was just saying there. No marshals, just a little small group of us every now and then, and we play a private game at a site that we've rented. And he's reprimanded me at a game for some getting carried away with grenades. And I have this thing every now and then where I forget I'm playing airsoft and I launch a grenade like everyone. And so I think there's always gonna be a little bit of bias if you've got regular teams. That's just human nature.
Absolutely.
If the bias starts to affect gameplay, though, that's when you've got a problem. It should never get to that level, really, in my opinion.
Tom's saying, can you actually ever get carried away with grenades? As someone who went to CQB and saw one guy with 6 grenades, 6 BFGs, it basically cleared every corner in the room before you could move.
Yeah. You can't get carried away with grenades ever, but for insurance reasons, you have to draw a line, I think.
Cole Hughes is asking, what's your best primary and secondary, or secondary if you use them, and why? You must have had a few riffs in your time.
I've got an A and K PTW.
Nice.
Yeah, it's got a fight. I got it second hand. It's got Fight Club custom gearbox in it, and that for me now, I don't use any. I've got a BFC 416. I had an ICS, was my main gun for a long time, and M4. It's an ex-rental. That thing's a beast. It's still going. But yeah, the Mark 18 I've got, that for me, it's really accurate. It's really reliable. Starting to get a few feeding issues on the mags. So the last few rounds aren't feeding properly. So it's not actually, it's basically turned into a normal AEG basically at the moment. But aside from that, I absolutely love the gun. And pistol sidearm wise, my Stark Arms Glock 17. I absolutely love that thing. I was a big fan of the SIG 226 that I got, the WE. A bit biased towards that anyway. But yeah, that's sat on the shelf now for the last year. I
think you did a video between the Glock and the SIG, didn't you, at one point?
Yeah, I've done. I reviewed the TM Glock. I forget which one it was now. I've reviewed a few pistols, and I'm always playing with other guys' pistols and things like that. Having a look at other pistols and that. But I mean, the Stark Arms, mine's the CO2 one. It's really reliable. It's really accurate as well. I was shooting the other day at a game site. I was shooting daisy heads from with the Glock from about 15 meters away.
Nice.
I should add, I will add for clarity purposes that it wasn't first shot, I should say. Took me a couple of shots, but it is really accurate for an airsoft pistol, basically. So those are the two that I use.
Obviously, it's like every single show with me. For me, it's always the Mark 23. It's never far from my hand on that front. And right now, primary is an SVD, but it's in Poland with Mancraft, so hopefully I'll get that back soon. We're going to come through a few more questions. Carlos should be back any minute now because I can see he's just connecting. Kev's asking, what kind of gear would you recommend for a 24-hour Milsim? Now, I know you've covered that before. Are you a fan of taking extra, or do you kind of go bare minimum?
I pack, I kind of pack kit for the kit I always pack. I always treat a game. I always just go full back on the training that I've had, and we never used to pack for just a 2-day exercise. If it was a 2-day exercise or a week exercise, your kit is your kit. So for me, I don't just pack for just a 1-day or a weekend event. If it's a 1-day event, I don't take a sleeping bag and things like that. But if it's an overnighter, apart from socks and pants, my kit stays the same. Obviously, socks, you need a couple of pairs of socks. You need to account for your feet getting absolutely soaked at one point, and an extra pair. So I'll always, for 2 days, I'll take 2 pairs of socks. Same with your pants or boxers, whatever it is you wear. Things like trousers, depending on. See, I never take a spare pair of trousers in case my trousers get wet. I take a spare pair of trousers in case my trousers get ripped to shit, and then I've got to, I don't want to be gaffer taping them up. But for me, a spare pair of trousers will always sit in the car, really.
Okay.
And apart from that, a spare top in your kit, because you can survive for quite a while with some piss wet legs, but once your torso starts getting soaking wet through, obviously things start getting a bit uncomfortable then.
Yep.
So, it's just the basics that you would take for any length of op, really. Dry kit, and obviously some sort of sleeping system, and obviously some warm kit as well. That's it. I mean, I don't really pack for. I just pack my kit's my kit. I've got a Bergen that's always got my gear in. To be honest, I've always been like that. So.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, for my 24-hour events, I'm getting away with just one of the day packs. But being a sniper, I tend to go very light load anyway.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, spare pair of underwear, spare socks in the back, real small sleeping bag. I tend to try and get away with a season 1 sleeping bag most of the year, unless it's getting bad, because that with the Bergen keeps me warm enough. 24-hour events, I even go cold food. Don't even bother with Hexy, unless I know it's going to be bad weather, and I'm like, no, I want a bit of warmth. The last 24-hour event, I didn't even bother with a sleeping bag. I just went out straight out on the floor.
That's the thing. If I've slept up against a tree before, and in fact, I was telling someone a while ago, I'd done an exercise down on Salisbury Plain years ago, and it was a joint exercise of us and the French Foreign Legion, and the French Foreign Legion guys had recce'd a harbour area for us on the side of this bank, and they hadn't actually been there and recce'd it. They'd just done a map recce, because it turned out it wasn't actually. It was supposed to be a small wooden copse on the side of this bank, but it wasn't. It was all the trees had been taken down, and there was all these baby trees put in their places. So they'd either been there and decided to screw us over, or they stuck to the map. And we just kept in bivy bags, our sleeping bags and our bivy bags, and the same thing. When I woke up for my turn on stag at about 2 in the morning, my bivy bag was frozen solid, like crunchy, and it was probably the coldest I've ever been. And we was doing push-ups and things on bag. Hey.
He's back.
Sorry about it's literally like the days of dial-up out here. Somebody picks up the phone, the internet cuts out. I'm like, what the hell? Sorry about that. Massive technical difficulties out here in Floperator land. It's embarrassing to say the least. And I've missed the entire past 10 minutes of everything. So sorry about this.
You're good. We were just talking about 24-hour kits worth of what you take to a Milsim, while I sort the staging out after you've
your batteries, ammo, speed loader, a good sense of humour.
Yeah, that's a big one. Sense of humour.
And always
Terrible.
look out for these. Because if one starts getting dehydrated, it's going to affect the morale of the entire team. Especially if you've got one of those like low blood sugar ones, that becomes so annoying. It's literally like, you think I'm kidding? It's happened to me before. You get the one that's like thrush, and it just affects everything that you do from that point onwards. It becomes really awkward being around this person because you're just waiting for them to lose it again.
Mark says you got to have a sense of humour, and knowing those guys over at Apocalypse, they bring the sense of humour every time. That and a lot of fight.
There was a
whether we
question
use
from
face masks.
Andrew Beaton. Yeah, there was a question over from Andrew Beaton. Just want to throw this out. Have you done this yet? The about drawing the margins between the skirmish battle sim and the Milsim?
No, that's a good question. I know I've got my opinion. Let's start with Mike.
Yeah, well, it's a question for Mike. Sorry, Graham, I know it's your show, bro. Guess
I've
gets
been
best.
enough times.
Yeah, so Mike, where do you draw the margins then between each of the three?
For me, I think any sort of game where you can rock up, anyone can just rock up. The zero effort put into the actual scenarios of the day, other than obviously, I'm sure most sites, and I'm sure we'll be doing the same when we run our skirmishes. No, I said that we are doing the same. Planning goes into the initial development of games, but in terms of planning for each specific day, if there's zero planning and people can just rock up, obviously, for me that's a skirmish. The battle sim thing, I think I've always sort of looked at a battle sim as kind of like a Milsim, but there's no major planning going into it beforehand. Everybody's left up to sort their own comms out prior to the event. Sort of kind of Milsim-y type storylines and missions and things like that, but with a lot less of the planning and detail. And then Milsim, I mean, for me, a true Milsim would be coordinated missions and everybody on each team working towards a common cause. Not guys strolling off to go and get as many kills as they can and fuck up the enemy and things like that. So I think mindset's got to come into it as well with the Milsim, because if you got guys there that aren't in the right mindset, they're just gonna, to them, it's just going to be another skirmish. In which case, they're just going to go around and potentially fuck it up for everybody else. I think that's probably the biggest thing with the Milsims is the mindset that the guys have when they turn up.
Would you consider Milsim still valid for 1 days or the 8 hours, or do you say that's more battle sim because of that situation? The fact you don't get the night experience or the kind of the long intensity.
Graham,
Or do you say
you're treading on dangerous ground here.
Well, it's always discussed, so I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a good point, and I'm hoping that with our event for Legion, we can show that you can put on a serious Milsim event in 1 day. I think if you look at, there's an event that's recently been held. I don't know if this is going, but I've had some messages from some guys that were a recent weekend event, and they've said it was absolute dog shit. It was everything went tits up because of the type of players that turn up. So I think that to me just shows that the argument of if it's not a weekend event, you don't have the right players turning up. That argument kind of falls through with that, because obviously these guys have just had the exact opposite of that happen.
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to what you're willing to put into it as an organizer. And obviously, we've not run a serious event ourselves with Legion, but for us, I think we want to make sure that guys, because I've done when I was deployed in Iraq, I spent most of my time on a camp. We had on my second tour, we had a bloody subway on site. There was a bar there. You could have 2 beers a day. So, and then we'd go out for 8, 9 hours and do a mission. And that 8 or 9 hours could turn into something 100 times more demanding than you could ever recreate in airsoft. So I think to say that you can't do a single day Milsim event, I think is not correct. I think it can be done, but it all boils down to what the organisers are willing to put in, and hopefully, the sort of players that you get.
I'll send you something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you something, and you can see exactly how much work goes into this this particular one that Graham brought up.
I've got 2 questions, and then I'll go back to the conversation you just said about players. Firstly, this was an old one just before Carlo disconnected. Cole Hughes was asking, back when you were talking about how you were serving, stuff like that, do you think airsoft players could do with training like serving guys do for when they play in CQBs, for clearing
There's a
rooms?
part 2 to that as well, Graham.
Yeah. And if you go to legionairsoftsevents.com, you can find some training dates. I think it's something that it all depends what the player wants. For me, it all depends what the player wants to get out of it. If guys want to immerse themselves completely, then training will only help, because when you go out there and you go into the game, if we could, the event that we're going to run, if we could get everybody onto a training event, every single player that's going to turn up, get them onto training events beforehand, we'd if it was feasible, we'd do it, because it would make the event so much better for everybody else.
Yep.
But at the same time, that's not to say that it will only make it better if guys do training. Again, it all comes down to mindset. If you're willing to put the effort in with training, and it's the sort of thing that you think you're going to enjoy. I mean, some guys, I've helped out with the Just Cause and Amateur Adventures training days in the past. They've been running for a little while now, and we've had guys on there that haven't really enjoyed it. So absolutely, training days can help with the right mindset and the skill set and things, because as well, it's not fun getting just smashed every day. Everybody wants to be the guy that kicks the door in, but if you don't know how to kick the door in, it's not potentially going to work. But that's, as I say, it's not to say that that guys should be doing training.
No.
I suppose if you want to feel comfortable, get experience, and just the fun and thrill of it, then there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't come down to waltzing or anything like that. It's just the fun of experience and just the knowledge, I suppose, isn't it? I mean, you could watch stuff online or read stuff from, but I'm sure these kind of training days and stuff like that. I mean, we have had some in Kent. There's been a few places that were up in Kent for these kind of room clearance and stuff like that.
I think
drills, isn't it?
Yeah.
But is there something dangerous with that? With teaching airsoft this sort of thing?
I mean,
Andrew's put it quite eloquently.
There could be something. I think it all depends on how you do it, how you go about it. If you're having guys onto your training day as a training provider, if you're having guys onto your training days and you're giving them the mindset that when they walk out of that class, they are now special forces operators. I think that 100% that could be, because we see it in the security industry. You get guys that will do it, guys that will come into the industry and they'll do a little bit of training. They'll do a really bad course, and they're sold all these dreams about rolling over car bonnets and disarming terrorists and things like that. And
it's all like the John Wick sort of style.
Guys actually think they can do that, and as you say, it becomes dangerous then for 2 reasons. One, they're going around thinking they're Billy Big Bollocks, and they're not. And 2, the only thing that's going to happen is they're going to get themselves hurt. So I think as long as you're for training providers carrying out these training sessions, as long as you're making sure that the guys that are attending understand that you're only teaching them this for the purposes of airsoft as a taster, then I think there's not really going to be too much of a problem there, because I mean the drill, you can pretty much find out any tactical training that goes on now on YouTube. It's none of it's a big secret anymore. 20 years ago, obviously things were a bit different, but now
Yeah, but
it's
is
so
it still evolving in the same way that sort of first aid does in terms of how you clear rooms or constantly looking out for the rest of the team, no matter how far back in this fire team you are?
it does, yeah. Things are always evolving and changing, but they kind of rotate around a very set of basic fundamentals.
Yeah.
It's like this whole seat clamp thing that it was about a year ago. It blew up with Airsoft.
Yeah.
That's not a new bloody.
Yeah, you can thank
that.
Will Greenwood for that one.
Good
Good
old
old
Will.
Will.
That grand from Dark Water is coming, mate. I guarantee it. You know what I mean?
It's like the C clamp things. I was taught that in 2000 as a basic infantry stance for supported shooting up against a post. You use the same grip basically. It's the exact same thing. So things are always evolving within tactical training, but they evolve around a very basic set of fundamentals, and it's the refinement that sort of changes rather than the actual the main sort of bulk of the skill set.
There's another question here. Well, I'll say question. It's more of a statement from Jay Peplow, and it's literally this. I think some people are slightly intimidated by some Milsim events due to the level of Gucci kits some players use. I've already had my reply with this saying I disagree with this statement. I'm going to further that by saying nobody uses the words Gucci kit, and if you do, you're a chav. So
I mean,
you should hand in your riffs now.
Yeah. If you play NATO, you're expected to have a lot of kit. Easy option.
Are you?
Do what I do. Just go op for. I mean, realistically, you're not so much
but even
conformed by
Op4 has
uniform.
a lot of kit these days. Rush 4 has a lot of kit as well these days.
I think
they're the ones using the headsets.
Yeah. It all depends on the background of the event, I suppose, doesn't it? I mean, you could have a Milsim with two sort of civilian rebel forces going against each other in tracksuits and trainers.
But do you remember the 90s SAS kit, which is basically a green bomber jacket, yellow Timberland boots, Levi's 501s, blue only, and any kind of nondescript white Fruit of the Loom t-shirt they could find? That was a Tom Cooper white t-shirt.
Yeah,
I do think
that
a
was
lot
the
of people
SAS
just
kit.
go with multicam though, don't they? And a multicam or MTP because it's the most common use. It's easy to grab a group of guys that have got that uniform.
I'm going to go thread counter on you now. Because the only British issued multicam is AC, or in the shirt form is custom. Now I'm going to watch all these comments of people going, "No, you're wrong."
I have no idea.
Start blocking it now.
Andy Snook, I'm level 30 on Siege on PS4. I am operator. You're just a loser with a beard, mate. Sorry.
Anthony
We
said
all
he
are.
broke all his toes on one foot by trying to kick open a door.
Yeah.
My friend, I just need training.
But when we say kick open door, we mean like the sole of your foot, not your edge. Also, what are you doing kicking open the door using your toes?
Drive with your heel. Drive with your heel.
Yeah.
Sort of Jet Li
It's
move.
connected to the rest of your body. It's got the most of the weight behind it.
The other thing, going back to the whole thing about you said with players, and this was from an experience I had recently. Went to a one-day event. Didn't have a good time at all. Mike, you were at the event. I was hyped for it. I got the 19-page briefing. I was like, this is going to be epic. And I went away disappointed. And the whole way back, I was talking with a friend who was with me. We were like, every problem with this day was the players there. And it doesn't have to be all the players there. You only take a small minority of people there. When you run across them 4 or 5 times a day, it can completely change your experience. And I think you're right. Yeah, you kind of, the site or the organizer sets that expectation of what they expect. But if the players don't join it, or they're not involved as the same way as you're expecting, it can really deteriorate events. And I think, that's exactly like you say. It's the event organizer can do everything they can to say this is what you do, but the players can really throw it down. And obviously, I did leave my opinion out there to people and say, look, I didn't have a good time. While there are some things I think they could have improved on, most of the issues were for players. And the organizer came back and said, you know what, you're right. We've now changed these rules to make sure the players don't turn up in trainers when you're on an MOD site. You know, it was little things like that. I mean, you turn up and jogging bottoms and trainers was not kind of what I expected. Especially when your team are like, right, we've read the briefing, you know, we've got all the radio comms, we know what we do when we die, and you shoot them and they go, what are we doing again? How do we medic?
Oh God, no, that's the worst thing. Even as like from a player and a marshal, like all levels.
Yeah,
that one
the marshals had a busy day. The marshals had a busy day that day. And the feedback was, because I know one of the marshals who spoke to me the other week when we met up. He's like, I'm so sorry I had a bad time. It's a one-off. We've never had that before. The players just didn't come, either having read the rules, listened to the briefing, or just did what was ultimately quite simple, really. And so I think anyone that goes to the event, you just need to kind of think about what you're doing before you get there. But again, gave feedback, went really well. They've been taking it on board, and I've already said I will go to the next one when I can get down to the next one, because like you say, oh, there we go. There's a few people who have actually been to the same event as me and already digging on the players that were there. Hi, Jack. Yes, so yeah, it was a bit of a rough one, but yeah, there's definitely ways to provide feedback. Carlo, something interesting happened over the last weekend when it comes to feedback. I'm somewhat worried you've not moved for the last 30 seconds, and that would be why.
He's really listening, really concentrating on what you're saying, or it's gone again.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a stare right into the soul there. Let's come back to that in a second, because he knows a bit more about it than me. He was a bit more involved. We'll come back to that in a second. I will go to chat while Carlo's broken the view again. Thanks, Carlo. When you watch the recording on this. So Andy's come back saying, so the Milsim UK, the UK Milsim Facebook page. Mike, I presume you've been involved with this or seen this? The new page?
Milsim UK?
That's the one. Seen this? This is the new one which started up after some stuff kicked off in the scene. Let's just trim your camera down again. There we go. So Andy says, UK Milsim Facebook page, hindering people's opinion of Milsim and expansion of it into the community, or promoting Milsim? I know my opinion, just wondering what you guys feel like about it. Should I go first?
The new group?
The new one, yes. That's the new one run by RT, yeah. Well, not run by him, but with his group of guys. Do you want to put your thoughts to it, or shall I?
Yeah, I mean, I tend not to follow the groups, to be honest. I mean, what I find a common theme with them is it just quite often degrades into childish bullshit being thrown back and forwards. So yeah, I mean, I've only looked at that group. I think I put a comment on today. Someone was getting roasted about a comment they made or yesterday. They all just seem to follow the same sort of pattern. You have a group of guys there that has one opinion, and it just seems that within Airsoft there's never seems to be any grown up sort of structured or I can't think of the word I'm thinking of now, but decent conversation that actually progresses forward.
Yeah, I think that page in particular, best intentions, but I think the Milsim scene in this country is a bit underdeveloped in the fact that there's a small minority of people that want these huge events, which is great, and I think they're all for them, which can make some people hesitant to join them. But then you've got a lot of people that want or say they want to do that, but aren't prepared for it, aren't ready for it. The problem is there's no kind of gap for them to get into yet.
Yeah.
And I think the problem being is that because they only fall into this group, it really can be seen quite a negative experience to them. But I mean, I understand why that group's there, and I think give it time. They should definitely get it sorted.
Yeah, I think that the
I'm
idea
not too
of
sure, to be honest.
I'm
I'm really not too sure, especially with some of the things I've seen on there.
the idea is good, but I think again, I sort of saw it. I saw it posted up, and I thought, oh, great. You know, a group where guys that have got common interests can talk about tactics and things like this. And then at the moment, it just looks like another version of UKSE to me. And I don't mean that as a dig to the guys that created it. I think the intention is good. It just, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to leave. Hopefully
You'll be kicked by the end of the show. No, like I say, I think even they were thinking we'll get a few weeks over it and we'll see what's left and who's left. There does seem to be a lot of flaming, like Andy's saying, and I don't think that's good for the Milsim community. I do think if you go in there asking stupid questions, you're gonna get a stupid reply. I think that tends to be the feel at the moment. We have definitely gone to a culture where we refuse to use Google over asking people on social media. I wonder if that's somewhat to blame for some of this negativity from use the search bar to actually just doing a little bit of research themselves. But yeah, time will tell about that channel, that's for sure.
yeah, I think it'll hopefully it'll the stuff that's the things that are being said and put on there now peter out a little bit, and it'll you know, I'm all for banter. I can I can rip the piss and as good as anybody, and I've certainly got no problems with someone ripping the piss out of me. But it just gets tiring seeing. I mean, my wall, my Facebook page is just constantly filled with just shit where people are from different groups slagging each other off and back and forth, and then people getting upset and offended, and it's just a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we were saying about experiences, then why don't we talk a little bit about Legion, because time is getting on, and this might be the perfect place for people who are looking to get into Milsims. Perfect opportunity to get started. Oh no, guys, Will's in. Will.
Oh crap! No, I'm going home.
So sorry, Mike. So let's go talk. Tell us all about Legion, how it started, and what's going on.
Yeah, Legion Airsoft Events is myself and Simon Burrows from Just Cause Airsoft. We've got another guy sort of coming with us, Jim, and we basically wanted to set up our own events company. As I said earlier, I've wanted to run some serious Milsims for a while. Buzz runs Just Cause Airsoft, so he's full time in the industry anyway. He runs his store, selling guns and things. So for him, it's just an extension of his business sort of thing. So we basically got chatting early last year. Actually, it's taken a while to sort of to come to fruition, and we started deciding on events that we could run and things like that, and it basically sort of progressed from there. The plan going forward is we've been running training days anyway for the past sort of year or so, and going forward we're going to have training days like we discussed earlier, where guys can come along and learn real tactics within the context of using it for airsoft, and then we're going to run skirmishes, battle sims, and then serious Milsim events, and that's it basically. Yeah, we've only just launched. We launched our first event, which is Operation Cohort down at Ripe Village,
which is on the screen right now. Anyone who's not seen Lib, I've put that on the screen right now.
Yeah, so running the event down there. It is a one-day event, primarily because it's our first event, as a company. Secondly, Ripe costs an absolute fortune to rent for the weekend. It would just be, it wouldn't be financially viable. No one would come because of the price we'd have to charge just to break even. It was ridiculous. So yeah, we've got a very clear sort of storyline that we're putting into that. The planning's I've never used Microsoft Word so much in my life. The planning's going in now. It's non-stop for that. So and we're running a skirmish at a site that we've just got the permission to use down in Red Hill. So the sort of idea for the company is run skirmishes, and then guys can progress into battle sims, and then if they like that and they want to try something a bit more serious, they can come along to the Milsim events. But the Milsim events going forward will be weekenders.
Okay.
So this one's just a one-day because it's our first one, and we're not millionaires. We couldn't afford the fee for ride.
You're not.
He's got that Lamborghini, guys. I've seen it. It turned up the lid in it.
All the rental guns are PTWs.
So the event itself, obviously I'm going. I'm really looking forward to it. You've got a backline storyline already, and
Yep.
I presume it's going to follow on from event to event. Are you doing it that way?
Yeah, the plan is. I mean, we've written it in such a way that we can expand into conventional armies versus conventional armies, as well as conventional armies fighting an insurgency. So we were specific to do that. So I think some training areas suit a specific type of op compared to other training areas. So that's the plan. This op, the op 4 guys are all within the storyline. They're all obviously a civilian force. We're not the good guys, the blue forces. They're not too sure just yet what they actually are, and obviously that'll be revealed. That'll be revealed along as the event passes by. And I think some of the effort that the op 4 guys are putting into this. Obviously, we've got two very different games depending on what side you play on. If the blue forces are going to be very military controlled, and the op forces are going to be very basically run like a rebel force.
So nobody in charge and everybody trying to mutiny each other.
Yeah. Hopefully not that realistic.
This is it. The Claymores are coming out as op 4. That's for sure. I can't wait for it. I really can't. It's going to be super exciting.
Yeah, I've had big things planned for it. Hopefully. Yeah. So.
Well, I know our side, the op 4 side, are already talking. We've been chatting a lot heavily about what we're doing, from what we're kind of wearing to how we're going to play, how we're communicating. Obviously, like you say, we are almost we're going to be more like the hit and run. We're going to be potentially outnumbered by the looks of things.
Throw out all of your tactics right now, Graham.
Yeah.
Oh, hit and runs. Let's be fair. It's probably going to be expected.
I've not told anybody this.
The best bit is 7 of my guys are on the other team.
Yeah.
So between our group, we've already had banter about. They're just going to shoot me on sight.
Can we do these last few questions through?
I was going to say, I've got to say, when we launched the event, we weren't expecting to sell as many tickets as we did so quickly, and the effort that the guys are putting in on the op 4 has been absolutely amazing. I think the guys that are on the blue 4 side are going to have. I think they're in for a good day. Obviously, as well as the guys on the op 4, everybody seems to be really willing to really get involved, which is awesome. From our, it couldn't as it stands at the moment, it couldn't have gone any better at the moment. So,
do you think roleplay plays a massive part on these type of success of these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys, and I don't want to give too much away because we're keeping what you guys have discussed away from the blue 4 guys. But the things that you guys have discussed about the things that you're going to do to role play in game, and things like that, it should really set the tone for the event. When those blue 4 guys, when they roll out of the gate at the fob for the first time, they should hopefully be able to completely immerse themselves into a working village, which is the idea that you want.
Set the tone from the start, isn't it?
Yeah, the tone should be set within the first. Taking their first steps out of those gates, they should the tone should be set. And obviously, you guys are going to have things run slightly different, which is going to enable you guys to actually. I mean, you guys should, by the time they get their foot out the door, you guys should know that village inside and out like the back of your hand. Whereas these guys are going to be going into unknown areas. So, yeah, hopefully things will go well.
Can we run through the last few questions here and then close
yeah,
everything off?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Graham, did ClearShot promo the article?
Yep, that one's all done. CleanShot definitely promoted the article last week.
Cool. Okay, Andrew Beaton asked Mike, as an events runner, would you ever be tempted to run something aimed at beginners to Milsims, excluding anyone without intentionally offending them who has played more than a couple?
Yeah, we're definitely. I mean, our plan is to run, say, battle sims, and we have discussed putting the battle sims within the same sort of the same universe, if you will, as the Milsims. So, that our main story of our Milsims is going to be going one way, and then the battle sims we have discussed kind of bolting them onto the side so that you can progress from that into a Milsim. I think there's definitely a place out there for events for guys that don't have a lot of experience in Milsims.
Just get good.
Yeah, I mean the problem is it costs a lot of money for some. I mean, for some guys,
then get rich.
Money. Yeah, some guys it's not a lot of money. Some guys it does cost a lot of money to go to these weekends. Everybody's everybody's different in what they can afford, and for some guys, some guys have said that our event at 65 quid is far too expensive, and a lot of guys. Well, we've had a lot. We've only got. I think we've got 40 places left now. I think. So that's 100 guys that think it is. The price is okay. So it's definitely worth getting events out there where guys can go along and be introduced to a Milsim gently, if you will, before going and spending 100 and something quid on a weekend away. Because the problem is, once you've paid that and you're there, if it's really not your bag, you've potentially just blown money that might be a big chunk of cash for you, and you're there all weekend, or you go home and you've had a shit weekend before it's even started, sort of thing. So, and
then you get bad reviews written about you and everything else. Graham, did you talk about that?
We actually left a bit open for you to discuss.
Thanks.
I don't know if you want to summarise it in a couple of minutes.
Just last question and the last two questions, and I'll throw that in there. So, Kev Pearson asked, Mike, will you be running events in different areas around the country?
Yes.
Details to follow.
Yeah, I mean we've already recce'd 5 sites now. We're a bit apprehensive of posting up what we're doing at the moment because what we don't want to do is post up. Like I was recceing a training area the other day to run some training stuff through, and we could have posted up that we were recceing it, but it's not really at the moment suitable for us to use. And what I didn't want to do is post up recceing this site, and then all of a sudden, we're not going to use it because it's a good site, but it's just not suitable for us. But we've already looked as far. We've been over to Essex and Kent. Obviously, we've got Ripe.
Oh, you came my way. What did you find up here?
Yeah, we've got
a shithole.
Yeah.
I live here, bro.
I can say that.
But yeah, 100%. The plan is to run events all over. We've been in touch with the MOD and the Landmark guys about some other MOD sites that we're just waiting to hear back on. So yeah, absolutely, all over the UK. We will be running events, or as best we can anyway.
Awesome.
Okay. Final question tonight, because we have to wrap this up. Anthony Wakeling, who just needs the attention. So here you are, you lost puppy. Is there an age limit on the Milsims and Battle Sims?
For our events, the MOD sites, the age limit's 18, because as part of basically
Their terms.
their terms basically. It's their site. You've got to play by their rules, unfortunately. But in terms of the battle sims, or in fact any Milsims that we run outside of a military training establishment, we haven't set a specified age limit yet going forwards. So we've not planned. We're trying to get RIPE out of the way first, and we're putting everything into that, with it being our first event. But yeah, I mean, we're not, as it stands at the moment, we haven't had a discussion about restricting it to over 18s. I think it's something that needs to be approached carefully, I think, because I know a couple
You
of
could have children as the op for.
Well, yeah, you could.
Child soldiers, they do it in Africa, I hear.
Yeah.
What's that guy's name? Coney, he did it real well.
Yeah. I know
You don't want to ruin that role play by having a 12-year-old running up and down, though, do you? There is that level of seriousness.
I know some guys that are under 18 that are dying to get on a Milsim, and they would toe the line. They would they'd do everything that was asked of them. But again, if you open an event up to a general age group, there is the risk there that you're going to get guys that aren't quite ready for it. I think, but it's not a conversation we've had yet, because I say the RIPE was that decision was taken out of our hands by the MOD. So watch this space for that. We're not entirely decided on that sort of stipulation outside of military sites.
Cool. Colin, did you want to briefly discuss providing negative feedback?
Recently, I'd witnessed something which was, I wouldn't really say shocking. I mean, this is Airsoft. We're very impressionable people. We go out on the weekend and we pretend to play soldiers with toy guns. Let's not make this any more sad than it already is, yeah? One team in particular had several of its members banned from a site. And the reason behind that is one had physically threatened another player on the game day. And the others had left, bar one. That night, they decided to write a rather scathing review in their closed Facebook group, of which the site's runner and owner happened to be a part of. This then escalated all the way to the point where these guys were given a ban by the site owner. I just want to say off the bat what a stupid bunch of idiots you lot are. Straight off the bat. How dare you? Firstly. Secondly, the polite thing to do and the right thing to do would be on the day, go and voice your concerns to this person. Tell them that you feel that there's an issue. You don't threaten another player. For God's sake, speak to a marshal about any non-hit taking. Get them to check. But by all means, don't start slagging people off online. There's no need for it. Because it will go around yourself. Yeah, but the worst of it is, Graham, because it's written, that can be screen grabbed and posted anywhere, couldn't it? And taken out of context.
Probably was, to be fair.
And then other people can fuel this fire. When what the people typing this review are actually doing is they're being laughed at rather than with.
Yeah.
And the worst of it is these are the people that won't say it to anyone's face.
I think that's one of the biggest problems with Airsoft is a lot of guys seem to not realise that you should be able to approach somebody and give them criticism in a polite way that doesn't result in any harm, any violence, any backlash, and all that happens is the guy that's been criticised says, "Okay, fair point. I'll look into it." And I think anybody that comes to our events, if they've ever got any dramas, I would hope that they would just come to us and say, "Look, we didn't like that aspect." They're either going to get told, "Sorry, but there's nothing we can do about that," or "That's what we want to do," or it's going to get taken on board and things will get changed. I some people are too easily offended, and some people think that because they get too easily offended, that by saying something to someone's face, it's going to cause them to start kicking off.
Then that's a choice to be offended.
Yeah.
To be offended is a choice.
Yeah.
And the worst of the matter is the fact that people choose to express that they're offended rather than just say, "Okay, thank you very much for your criticism. I'll work on something," or I'll suit your needs and your desires in future.
Yeah.
Because keeping your customers content with what they're purchasing is important. If you don't know what you're bringing forward to your customers, you really need to look at yourself a little bit harder and a little bit further and work out exactly what you bring forward. Floperator is ever changing as a podcast. We don't know what the hell we're doing, but we still have this one core mantra, which is never edit anything. Whatever gets said on record goes out. Except for the stuff we talk about in the breaks.
I was going to say, I'm now worried about all the conversations we had in the breaks.
We talk about grammar, don't you talk about, mate? They never got recorded. So.
I was going to say, I put it down to just lazy editing, but that's
I do that live.
I do that live. So, but no, well said, Carlo. At the end of the day, there's a good way to leave feedback and a bad way, whether it's good or bad. Either do it on the day or do it constructively after, not just like full rage.
Come on. It's like, it was shit. Okay, what made it shit? Be more constructive in your feedback.
Yeah.
I didn't like this because this offended me because I'm a snowflake.
But places only get better if they get the feedback and take it on board.
Yeah,
that's
a bugbear of mine is when guys go, "Oh, it's shit," and you say, "Why?" and they say, "Because it's shit."
Because it's shit. Yeah. And I feel like picking up a dictionary.
Yeah.
And beating over the head with it.
But we don't condone violence.
No, I don't either. But if I'm going to be stupid in life, I'm going to beat some sense into you.
Yeah.
It's not violence. It's attitude adjustment.
Yeah. It's what they call it in the military. It's discipline. No, we don't condone violence.
Exactly. And with that, I think we are at 5 to 10, so we are well overdue.
Aren't we?
All right,
guys.
Carlo, let's start with you this week. What are you up to this week on the Floperator Show?
Floperator podcast has got on a plethora of snipers. We have Sniper Mechanic, fresh from his interview here on Airsoft Nation. Getting it in. Thanks, Graham, for arranging that. Also on the show we have James Bailey, who'll be returning to us. Which would be fantastic too. And also Sam Jarrett of Apocalypse Airsoft. Fantastic tech, also looking to get in the sniper game as well. So Anthony, we're going to be bringing out safe spaces as well. I've actually got a marketing campaign bringing out Floperator safe space. It's basically a turntable. Literally, you step onto it, it turns you around and walks you away.
Well, sounds like it's going to be a really good show. Really good show. That's out on Friday, yeah?
Yeah, Fridays. Every Friday.
Cool. I will share it as always.
Thank you very much.
Mike, obviously, only, what have we got? 6 weeks, is it, till the event?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah, 3rd of June. So, you got anything planned this week? Any videos, any content, or just work?
Yeah, I've got... I'll be making a dent in the millions of hours of video footage I've fallen behind on for Templar Airsoft. I've got a Q&A session that I need to do, and then I've got episode 1 of the Op Nightstorm footage to come out, which is kind of halfway through edited. And then it's just planning. Just going over. There's so much paperwork to do for MOD sites.
I can imagine.
Trying to fit that in and then planning everything for the day. Pyro and comms and things like that. It's all go. Lots and lots of paperwork to get through.
Cool. Well, I will share the next video when you go out, and I will also share the trailer you just put out the other day, so everyone can see that. Definitely subscribe to his channel.
As well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely subscribe to his channel, so you can up that sub count. But keep it up, Mike. Really good. And I look forward to seeing you on the 3rd. Yes. With me this week, we have Team Beard Player Spotlight, that didn't come out last week because we launched the Inter-County Airsoft Competition website or sub-site on Airsoft Nation, so that came out instead. So we got Team Beard on the interview. And this Sunday, I'm actually going to be over at Invicta Airsoft because that's where the Kent versus Berkshire game will happen, which will be quite exciting to see what's happening there. I'm rooting for Kent. And at the same time, Kent are looking for a new captain for after that event. So we'll do all the coverage for that. But it should be good fun. And
I'll do it. Oh, wait, I don't live in Kent.
Oh, see, that would have been great. Yeah, if you're from Kent, you've probably got to be over 18 or definitely over 16. And you're interested in running the Kent team for the ICAC, definitely give Carl Hughes a shout. He's in the chat. And if you're not already involved in ICAC, definitely look for your captains. There's 15 counties involved at the moment. So that should be a good laugh. And that is pretty much it until next week for me. Next week on the show, we have 2 site owners, but that will all come out on Wednesday.
Yeah,
So,
they're going to fight, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. Which site's better? You decide.
That's only what we wanted to decide, isn't it? Watch them fight. Oh, no, they constantly talk over each other.
Yeah,
Like,
that's it.
And then no one gets anything of what they're saying.
You get them to every time you two shit in.
Yeah, basically.
I have to mute one and then mute the other, and mute one and mute the other to get feedback. That's far too complicated for this system. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching me, guys. If you still stuck it out, I can see a few guys who have been here from the start to the end. So I hope you all have a great week, and I will speak to you all online. Thank you very much for Mike. I will share your stuff this week, and I'll see you on the 3rd. Thank you very much, Carlo. Do appreciate your time.
Guys.
So goodbye from me. Goodbye from Carlo.
Bye, Carlo.
And a goodbye from Mike. And stream.